Everyone, this is Mama Saad Khan here, Associate of Journal Club IMIG. Today we are back with another session of statistical analysis. It's my great pleasure to introduce our distinguished guest today, Dr. Anjali Mediboina, MBBS graduate of Aliri Sitarama Raju Academy of Medical Sciences. Dr. Anjali is an avid researcher with a passion for public health, reproductive health, and medical education. Her extensive experience in leading and collaborating on multiple research projects has had a profound impact on these fields. Currently, she serves as a senior mentor at the Good Research Project, where she plays a pivotal role in coordinating various initiatives and helping researchers build essential skills in study design, data analysis, and publication. So, I would like to welcome Dr. Anjali as she shares her insights and expertise with us today. Thank you so much, Dr. Anjali. Are you there?
Yeah, thank
Over
you
to
so
you.
much for that introduction. Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Dr. Anjali, and I'll be talking a little bit about the data analysis and how to go about your statistics in your research papers. So let's begin. I'm going to share my screen. So today, I think the main aim that I wanted to do is I want you all to be able to confidently get started on your data analysis. I feel like if you know how to use Microsoft Excel and or Google Sheets, then you can do 90% of your data analysis. And even if you were to involve a statistician in your data analysis, you cannot give the raw data that you collect. You have to clean and you have to code the data in order to first give them, because you have to be able to communicate what exactly you're looking for in your your study. So what are the variables that you're looking for? What are the outcomes that you're expecting? You have to be able to communicate that to your statistician, and the only way they can figure out what you want is by a clean encoded data set. So let's say I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. So let's say you used a Google form to collect your data set, and everything that I'm talking about, it is applicable. Usually in medical research, I think we go for cross-sectional studies, right? So you nowadays the norm is to use a Google form. Uh, and if you're using a Google form, you can link it in Sheets. So if you go to the responses column, you can see view in Sheets. And the great thing about the Google form is that, let's say right now I have 59 responses. If I open up my sheet, I will have those 59 responses. But if I add 10 more later, those 10 will automatically be added to the same sheet. You don't have to, manually go and enter the data. So that's the good thing about the Google form. So if I click on view sheet, sorry, yeah, then I would be transported to the sheet that looks a bit like this. Okay, right. So this is part one, your Google Sheet or your Microsoft Excel. So the thing is, we usually prefer to say Microsoft Excel is because, so an Excel sheet is stored only on your hard drive, whereas a Google Sheet, it would be linked to the cloud. So when you're handling patient data, there is a concern that there could be a breach of privacy because, you're giving access to the entire cloud, which means you're giving access to the patient data. So which is why we prefer to say Microsoft Excel. You can always download as a Microsoft Excel sheet, your Google Sheet. And that will, if you ever want to share it to a statistician and outside a statistician, you can always share it in the form of the Microsoft Excel. So this is a sort of a mock data set that I will be using. Aina and I actually, we collected this data for another research project. So I thought I would use this as an example. The next thing that you would need is to do your statistical tests. So statistical tests are, the chi-square test or the Fisher exact test. All of those are tests that we apply in order to find any correlation or any, significant association between the variables that we are, you know, sort of like talking about in our research paper. So for that, there are different ways we can use to calculate those statistical tests. one that you must have commonly seen is SPSS or Stata. And now we have RStudio, which is an up and coming, it's a very, very popular tool that is being used in data science and analytics and is being largely applied in medical research as well, because first of all, it's free. SPSS and Stata, they are paid resources, so you need to pay for them. RStudio is completely free, and this is actually, it's very user friendly. If you know Python, then you can easily understand this. Even if you don't know any computer language, this is pretty easy to understand. I will share a document later after this session. I know your organizers will share with you that I've given you a list of resources that you can use, a YouTube video that you can use to first understand what is R. There's a Coursera. There is a course on Coursera that I actually also used. It's a really good introductory course that can get you started with the basic things that you need to know about using R. So first, let me tell you a little bit about R. The thing is, it is very user friendly. And the thing is, you can export your data. So yeah, so you can export your entire spreadsheet here. Oh, I think I have it open. 1 minute. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, so I have my entire spreadsheet here. So it's not like I have to. So with SPSS and Stata, it's like a calculator. If you're, let's say you want to calculate 4 times 5 times 6, you would have to open up your calculator. You have to type in 4 times 5 times 6. And then, there's that manual input that you need to do. With R, it kind of solves that problem, because here you have your spreadsheet, and if you know the code, you can refer to the spreadsheet itself and you can carry out all the analyses, rather than for manually calculating your mean or your standard deviations that you can do in sheets, but having it all in one place makes it easier. And of course, if there's the human error, so is also problem. The problem is solved of human error, because sometimes if, let's say, I calculated the mean to be like 4.3 and I accidentally typed it up as 3.4, then that's an error that I have made. But because we're using a computer, that problem is solved. So that is the basic thing of R. SPSS and Stata, like I said, you use it as a calculator. You have to input your values. So let's say in the data set, you want to calculate a chi-square test, then you have to, like, for example, here. So yeah, so this is my chi-square test. As you can see, there's the p-value. It was a normal test, so I had 9 variables. So for SPSS or Stata, I would have to enter those 9 numbers in the order manually, and then it would calculate the p-value for me. So again, you might have human error. It's just a very tedious job. You can do that directly in R. I'm not very proficient in R, so I do all my data analysis up until the means, the standard deviations, everything I do it in Google Sheets. If I want to apply any statistical test like chi-square or Fisher's, then I head to R. So first, I will help you get proficient with Google Sheets, and the same things you can apply in Microsoft Excel. But the thing with Google Sheets is that it's very user friendly, and I will show you why in soon. So first, let's start with cleaning and coding your data. So this is like a practice data set. So with R also, you have a lot of practice data sets online that you can find. So this is one such practice data set. So this is a list of movies with the name Summer in the title. So first, these are rows and these are columns, right? And each thing is a cell. So let's say you want to find the mean year of a data set. Then what you would do is you head all the way to or you can just find an empty cell, press the equal to, and yeah, you type in average. I'm sorry, just give me, yeah, average, right? And again, this is the benefit of Google Sheets. It gives you, what you need to know. So you have all of these, and it also gives you the definition. I don't think this is there in Microsoft Excel. You need to know specifically, because if you type in equal to mean, it's not going to work. You have to type in equal to average. So average, and I want column E2, sorry. I want from E2 to, which is my nth value, the last one that we have is, okay, so there are a lot of names, there are a lot of movies with the name with the name Summer in it. So yeah, I think, let's see, E906. So yeah, so the average year would be 2001. So like that, you can calculate your standard deviation with the formula STDev, right? And then you can also calculate your median with the equal to median equation. And then what other common ones that we use are quartiles. So if you want a quartile, then you have to choose, you have to do like one, there's another formula, I can share that as well. But yeah, so likewise, you can find all your mean standard deviations, the medians, all of that you can find in the Excel sheet itself. And another thing is, so when I highlight this column, you can look over here and it gives you the average 2001, like we just saw. The minimum value is 1920. So 1920 is the least year and 2024 is the most, the max year. And then the total count is 906 and the count number. So in case you have any non-numerical values, that would be excluded. So here we see that there are clearly two non-numerical values in the column E, in the row E, sorry. So that is one of the cool things about Google Sheets, and this is why I like to use it. It also, again, is very user-friendly. Yeah, so let's start with cleaning and coding. So this is the raw data set that we had collected, well, Aina had collected with two other researchers. So the first thing that I prefer to do is I like to just format according to my preferences, which is center aligned. I like to keep everything in the middle, and I like to wrap my data so that it's all in one column. So I don't have to keep highlighting in order to see what is written. And another thing that I like to do is, so these are the questions that we asked, and the remaining is all the answers. So I freeze this. If you click view, freeze up to row 1, right? Yeah. So this will be frozen. And that way, yeah. So this way I can keep, scrolling all the way down, and I won't have to keep going back to the first column or the first row to see what is actually written there. So it just, for convenience. So these are my preferred formatting settings, to each their own. So yes. So the next thing I do is I make a copy. Okay. If you click duplicate sheet, right? Yeah, so this always keep copies of your data sets, because again, in human errors, we're all human, we make mistakes. In the event that you've made a mistake or you've done something wrong, you don't have to control Z, or you don't have to look for your previous history. You can just go back to the fresh data set. You can start over again. So I'm just gonna hide this, or you can also protect the sheet that just, locks it so that you don't make any changes, but you can just hide it away. And if you go here, then it'll show you your copy. So that just keep it aside, just to be on the safe side. I also make an entire, I just make another copy of the whole spreadsheet, again, just to be on the safe side. You never know what happens. You might press something, because I myself have accidentally deleted so many things by mistake. So just make sure, just be on the safe side. Then what we're going to do is first delete everything that you don't need. So when sorry. So when you're reporting results, the first will always be your demographic data. So everything that you've collected about your participants, so if you've collected the age, if you've collected their marital status, even if you've collected their religion or their year of study, even if later on you have not really used that data, like let's say you did chi-square association only between the age groups and the blood pressures, and you did not really use the marital status anywhere. you still have to report it. Every piece of information you collect about your participants, you have to collect it, and that will be your table one. That has to be the first thing that you report. You have to give some background info about the participants. So in our case, this is about YouTube. This was the YouTube analysis. So they went through 59 YouTube videos in regards to leukemia, and they kind of use some tools in order to assess them. So I don't need the timestamp, right? Because I just don't need it. I don't need who collected it. That is irrelevant. And you can keep the serial number. So that would be usually one of the first things. And the second column would usually be informed consent. Did, if the participant gave consent or not. Obviously, people who did not give consent, their entire form would have to be discarded. So let's say, yeah, so what you would do then is you keep a filter. So the small little triangle icon is a filter, and you can just filter out yes or no. So I want to see the YouTube videos who did not meet topic relevance. So yeah, okay. So there are 3 out of 59 rows displayed. So you can see that at the bottom. And this is also very important. So sometimes when you're putting filters, always make sure that, let's say I want to see the type of post, and I forget that the no filter is on. So obviously I'm only going to see things that are in the news. So you always make sure that your filter is off. Or yeah, you can always uh, filter within the filter. But again, this helps you keep track. So I know that the total is 59. So if it's anything less than that, I know that somewhere a filter is on and I did not check. So what I do then is I highlight these and I just mark them in red. This is just for my knowledge and my awareness that, okay, so these have to be discarded, right? So these 3 responses would be discarded, and you can just you know, delete the rows later, because again, if they're not irrelevant to the topic, and if there's something that I'm excluding, I can always delete them. Sometimes some studies also they just want to see who exactly have we excluded, or you have to report how many entries you've excluded. So just make a note of how many entries that you've excluded, how many participants you've excluded, and why also. So for me, my only criteria was that it's not relevant to our topic, which was leukemia. So likewise, you may have other criteria. So let's say, I think one study was about menopausal symptoms, and we excluded women who underwent hysterectomies or had hormonal therapy to achieve menopause, or if they had any conditions like thyroid or hypothyroidism, something like that. So in those cases, we also excluded, I think, 20 patients, and each had a different reason, right? So that also you have to make a note, like, okay, so n number we excluded because they had hysterectomy, n number because they had hormonal therapy. So just make a note of that. You can open up a document, or you can make a note in a separate spreadsheet. So what I do is, immediately I keep a spreadsheet and I start making the table in the sheet itself, because then you can just copy paste that into your Word document, and it's just very easy that way. So here, let's say total number, sorry, I don't need the equal to sign. So here it is 59. Oh, sorry. Yeah, included was 59 minus 3. So excluded was 3, and 59 minus 3 is 56. Yeah. Okay. So this is my table 1, for example. Then what I can do is I can just make that table, and I can copy and paste it into a Word document. And that solves the issue of having to make, yes. And here you can link to, if you're doing this on Google Docs or Google Sheets, you can link it to your spreadsheet. So that way, let's say I added another column later, that would automatically be updated in the Google Doc itself. I don't really need that, that thing right now, but if you ever were to do that, then you can always utilize that option. So right now I'm going to filter the yes values, or just have all the values come back. And that leaves us with a total of 56. So that is about filtering. And next, let's say you want to make a table, an image. So let's say I wanted to make a bar graph of this. So what you'll do is, again, always just do it in the Google Sheet itself. You can always copy paste the image later. It's just convenience sake. You have all your data in one place. So you can come back and, just kind of verify or make any changes. It just makes it easier rather than going to Word, inputting everything. So it just makes your life easy. So you click on insert, you click on chart, and yeah, so usually it will give you a chart that it feels is the best for your data that you highlighted. So here it thinks that a pie chart would be suitable, which is true. It gave me my excluded, my included, and my total number. And you can always change that. Chart type, you can change it to a bar graph, but yeah, a column chart, and then you have your line charts and everything. So that you can do that. And then you can customize it. So in the pie chart itself, you can, do a lot of things basically. So if you want to include a label, you can include a label. So yeah, let's try to add the label. Yeah, you can go to the chart and access titles. So the chart title here is inclusion and exclusion criteria. Yeah, and here it is. So likewise, what you'll do is you can download it as a PNG, as a PDF, and that you can, insert into your file, or you can always just save it for later, or you can just copy and paste into your Google Docs. And again, link it to your spreadsheet. Any changes that you make in the spreadsheet, it will automatically be updated in the Google Doc, or you can paste it unlinked. And here it is. So that is how you do your graphs. Yes. So after that, again, the next thing that you'll have to do is, so the values that you have. So for us, we used the GQS, which is a tool. It is a scale of 1 to 5. And as you can see in the Google form, and this is another thing, when you're making a Google form, the way you structure it can make or break your entire data analysis. Because see, I had kept, for the sake of the students, for the sake of INA and all, I had kept, 1 this, 2 that, 3 this, C. Yeah. If I had just put each thing in the question itself, like, so in the question, if I had written 1 is this, 2 is that, and made them just select 1, 2, or 3, then automatically I wouldn't have had to reformat this. But right now what is happening is I cannot, do any data analysis. If I wanted to calculate the mean of the YouTube videos, that the mean GQS score of the YouTube videos that we analyzed, then I cannot, because there is text. I can only use numerical values. So now I have to go and I have to reformat that. So the way you structure your Google form can also really make your job easier. Always try to make sure that you have numerical values, or something like that. Something, so if it's only medical education, this or this. If you keep other, or sometimes I would see Google forms where they don't give you a multiple choice, they give you a short answer instead. Then what happens is you have to reformat everything, you have to resort the responses. And just for the best example is when you go to a Google form and they ask you the country or your area of residence. So area of residence, I used to live in Andhra Pradesh. Some person will write AP. Some person will write capital A, small p, or capital A, capital P. Some person will write Andhra or just Andhra. The thing is, when you put it in your Google Sheets over your Microsoft Excel, you would have Andhra 20 responses, for example, but it won't be uniform. So it won't let you automatically filter your responses. You would have to go, and for each AP, you would have to write a uniform response. I hope you get what I'm saying. So if you just give them a drop down or a multiple choice, it automatically is uniform when it gets input into your Google Sheets, and it just makes your life easier. Otherwise, it's just a lot of time that you have to spend reformatting everything so that it is uniform. So in those cases, let's say you didn't realize and you have this sheet and now you have to do it. What I do is I copy paste, I click Control H, which is the find and replace. You can always go to format, or sorry, you go to data, I think, and let me see, or you have to go, yeah, okay, edit, find and replace. So then you click find, copy paste the one info is missing, and I just want to replace it up with one. And here, match case, match entire cell contents, only this particular sheet, because if you select all sheets, then everywhere it gets changed, including the original data set that we had set aside. I don't want that to happen. So only this sheet. You can also be even more specific and select that particular range, but it's fine. This sheet. And you just replace all and done. So that automatically replaces with one. And the same, you can do it for 3, for everything else. So yes, so that is how you clean and code your data. First step is to make sure that you've got a proper Google form. But again, if you're manually connecting data like on a piece of paper, then you would have to, then what I did, so my first project was about the effects of mental health in police. And it was my first research project, so I manually collected everything on paper and pen, because I also needed the police who I was talking to sign the consent forms. So then I just made a Google form and I input everything myself. So the first respondent, I would just tick their answers onto the Google form, and then I put it into the Google Sheet. So that is also something that you can always do. So again, it just makes it easier, because rather than having to type into the Google Sheet, it's just easier to click the answers on the Google form. You can also have your fellow researchers do it. Again, it just keeps everything uniform, you know. So that is how you would utilize the Excel sheet. In this particular study, first, I think the reference study is always very important. A good reference study will have the methods explained very clearly, so that you can, do it by yourself. Yeah, you can replicate the